the area-rated control. That means by the end of the day or the end of the week, they consolidate the account to see if there are any discrepancy or so. So the thing, I'm not yet looking at that issue here, even though it's an interesting issue. The second thing is modeling domain knowledge. Here I assume that certain domain knowledge is static throughout the execution of a transaction. However, research shows that some kind of domain knowledge, like trust relationship, may change during the execution of a transaction. After some first step, the trader may increase or decrease the level of trust. And this will be addressed maybe in the future research. And modeling fraud, and here in the research you see, fraud are modeling in Deontic logic and in model logic. The key thing is I do not incorporate the mental state of agents. However, a good model of fraud may be considered deception. Deception is a false belief about certain event or certain fact. And to apply that kind of thing, we may need the logic of belief, intention, and so forth. And maybe in the future I have read that kind of thing. So the future research includes those research that try to accomplish or try to overcome the limitation. In the dissertation, for every limitation, I also identify possible solution for future research. If you look at chapter 7, beside every limitation, I suggest a possible solution or possible direction. Besides that, there's a lot of future direction for research, include combining the Deontic process model with other modeling tools in order to model the incremental design. For instance, in UML, they have a set of modeling tools from the use case to activity diagram, to process diagram, and so forth. And here, maybe Deontic process model is one level. We may incorporate with the Deontic activity diagram, Deontic process, and then business process model, and so forth. Actually, in the dissertation, I provide one of the possible combination in order to model complicated system in an incremental way. Then a redesign of the Deontic process. You see here, I suggest the methodology for redesign in slide number 10 is include 4 steps. Here, I just accomplished the first step. There are a number of research. I and Professor Lee and Professor Utah work in this area, and this area is empty, to remain uncharted. So in the future, I may target to research in more detail. Other applications may be verified of the Deontic correctness. When we model the Deontic process here, maybe it's wrong. You see, maybe it's wrong, maybe there are conflict obligation, a conflict right, and so forth. Now here in this research, I assume this is true. So in the future, we can develop some algorithm to verify whether the Deontic process model is correct or not in the Deontic sense. And we can simulate or monitor the execution of the Deontic process. Imagine like when you execute one activity or perform an action, then the screen will pop up for you what obligation you need to fulfill next, what is the deadline, and so forth. Such kind of system may be for the future monitoring of international contract or international transaction. And in terms of control, future research maybe look at area-rated control that I discussed before, responsive control. That means admin control flexible into the procedure during the execution of the process. Or more important, very interesting issue is to harmonize different control. You may require differently, I may require differently. How can we negotiate and come to a consensus set of control requirement and control solution? Control requirement here may include the government requirement and so forth. So conclusion. In this research, I have developed a formal method for deriving control requirement and a working prototype. The method comprises 4 steps. Modeling the Deontic process. That means capture the domain knowledge and modeling the Deontic process. What I do here actually is I provide a formalism to accomplish this task and apply the formalism to model certain examples of the international trade procedure. The future research may be considered apply this formalism and apply it to various different domains like government or any other thing. Identify control principle by analyzing the Deontic process model, rather than adapt principle from accounting or auditing theory. Specify control principle formally in control rule using the technique of model checking, and implement the Deontic process and control rule in a computing environment, and use 14 scenario of international trade procedure to validate the implementation. So if I have time, I go through the demonstration.
But you're now at an hour and a half, so having time is, I think, in the negatives.
We have very useful discussion.
We now are going to open it up to discussion, and I'm going to go around to each of the committee members and give you each a chance to raise questions. Do any of you want to go first?
I think the visitors should go first.
Would you like to?
I think the visitors should go first.
Yeah, and then my name is with A, you see, alphabetically. I go first.
Well, you could say ladies first, or alphabetically it would be A, B. All right, Anastasia?
Anastasia. So, no, what I wanted to ask you, I slipped it in before, but I wanted to hear your take, your opinion, your perspective on testing all of this against actual data sets.
Yes. In the demonstration, for instance, this is the demonstration, and here is one of the data set. Here is the documentary procedure. The data set here is the procedure provided by the International Commercial Commerce. This is the organization that specifies like the rule for international trade. Okay. So I take the model. One of the models very famous for them is the documentary credit, and here is the description of the case.
So he's going to work in this demo. Thanks to you. Thank you for this question.
Right. In order to do a trade transaction between the two parties that do not trust is order. It's very vulnerable for me to pay first, for the seller to deliver good first, or for the buyer to pay first. Right. In that case, may end up that the seller deliver good and end up that cannot get payment. And the same way, if the buyer pay first, then he may end up that he cannot get the good. So how to handle that kind of thing? There is one of the procedure, this very famous procedure in international trade, they call the documentary credit procedure, that handle that kind of thing. In a documentary procedure, the buyer and the seller do not work directly to each other. They go through the bank. For instance, the buyer work with the issuing bank, and the seller work with